Hi guys, welcome to another Travelling Corner video. In this video I've got something very exciting I'd like to share with you. We're just going to go around the area of Portsmouth and I'm going to show you around the history of its railway network. Now you've joined me at the front of the 23 bus. Just to sign
23 to Southsea.
Thank you, Rick. Just as you just joined me on the 23 as I'm making my way into the first part of the journey. I'm going to make my way into Cosham, and then it'll be there where the fun really begins. We have 5 stations in Portsmouth that are operational at the moment, all run by SWR. And you've got then that's Cosham, Hilsea, Fratton, Portsmouth and Southsea and Portsmouth Harbour.
Next stop, Brookside Road. But
then you also get to come with me as I delve deep into the mysteries of the Southsea branch, which covers the bit that branches out of Fratton. So there's a small tiny branch there with a couple of halt stations. And then I'll take you up to Paul's Grove to look at the disused station there. It's also interesting to note at this point that there are other bits of history waiting as well. And shortly after the main station of Portsmouth was renamed, the whole place itself gained its city status, and more of that will be discussed later on in this video. But join me back in a bit as I join you in the area of Cosham, just outside Cosham railway station. Join me back in a bit after this.
20.
And I'm back, and welcome back to the hustle and bustle of Portsmouth, but the city council area of Portsmouth. And you just joined me outside Cosham railway station. Now, this railway station opened in 1848. It's one of the main, if not, it was one of the very first stations that opened up shortly after the station of Havant. And it's one of those that was situated between, it's one of these stations that was situated between Havant and Fareham. And it's also interesting to note at this point, it's also rather sad, that there used to be a direct service between here and London Victoria, because the 2 platforms at this station were both London bound. Platform 1 went to London Victoria, and this is platform, you'd watch, I did get my platforms mixed up. Platform 1 goes to London Waterloo. Platform 2 was the services that went to London Victoria. And it was unfortunate that last year that Southern had scrapped their direct service between Southampton Central and London Victoria. So while you can still go to London Victoria, if you were to board at this station, you would now have to change at Chichester, whereas before you were able to go direct. It's also interesting to note at this stage that there are 2 different ways. There were 2 different ways to go to London Waterloo. And also it's worth noting that if you have a look, this is one of the main stations for the trains that go to Cardiff. And they used to go to Poole, by the looks of things. The only time they do that now is if they're on a divert. And I'm back. We're just about to begin quite a long walk from Cosham to the former railway station of Farlington Halt. Now it's also interesting to note that this stage that Farlington's Holt station had a knack of opening and closing at a fairly regular interval during the time that it was in operation. The station itself didn't last that long, and we'll get to that as soon as we get there. But it's just very nostalgic, I find, as I take you along this route, take you along this path as well, that you get to also explore the many different areas of Portsmouth that you may not have seen yet, including this particular area. This road, I find, links up Cosham and Farlington, and they do it rather beautifully as well. It's quite a long road, I will admit, but it's not really all that bad once you get used to it. It's just something that I enjoy doing. There's a nice long walk between points A to B. But before I digress too much, we're going over to Farlington Holt, and then the next bus on my schedule at this point today would be a 19 as I take you to the next operational station on the line. Join me in a bit after this. And I'm back, and you never will guess what had happened. So I've just packed a compass before I left because I knew I was going to need it, but still I was able to get myself lost on the way to the next station. Well, it's a former station because we're at Farlington, what used to be Farlington Holt. Now this station opened in 1896, which came in handy for those who went up or went between Havant and, at the time, it was Portsmouth Town and Portsmouth Harbour. But it is just rather unfortunate now that I'm standing outside this former station that it looks like the platform has been lifted, because I'll tell you now, this station, this former station, had a knack of opening and closing on a regular basis. Now, it first closed in 1917, reopened in 1922, it closed again in 1927, reopened in 1932 again, and then it closed for good in 1937. And since then, the drill had gone through the platform, because you have to bear in mind this is the 20th century we were talking about here. So the platforms were made out of wood. And it was at this stage where, because the drill had gone through that wooden platform, it made it unusable, as you'd expect. It is also interesting to note at this stage that when Farlington closed in 1937, Hilsey then opened up 4 years later. More details on that when I get there. Join me back in a bit after this. And I'm back, and we're just after that fiasco of my bad sense of direction, and after a 19-minute wait, I am actually on the 19 going to the next station along the line, which is Hilsey. Now, I've already unpacked a fair amount of information about Portsmouth, the history of Portsmouth's railway network, and I've only just done Cosham and Farlington. Just going up to Hilsey. There's a bit of a walk. 21 used to do this route, but I just thought I'd quickly hop on just to give you an update as to what is happening next. And you've got so many other ideas, so many other places that are dying to be explored in this video in particular, and there's so much more information to be shown, and I'm excited to uncover all of it. I'm excited also to be taking you on this journey with me. So join me back in a bit, and I will see you at Hilsey railway station. And I'm back, and welcome to Hilsey railway station. Now, it just is interesting at this stage that this one is what's termed as it's deemed a workman's station. Let's get my words out. Well, what that means is that no trains will call here on a Sunday. Absolutely none. Not even any SWR trains will call here on a Sunday. It's a workman's history, because if you think about it, this is what the outside of Hilsey station looks like, and it just opened in 1941, just when it was the peak of World War II, and it was here that you were then given the idea of it being a workman's station, because look at everything around it, factories and everything that you can possibly think of to make production thrive at this point. Unfortunately, this station is unstaffed. It is unstaffed at the best of times. Now, the London Victoria trains, they used to be a direct from Southampton Central to London Victoria. That's been scrapped. That was scrapped last year, and now they run. There are some Victoria trains that are stopping service, so they stop at every single station on the line up to Barnum. Ow. Up to Barnum, apart from Bedhampton, which is really rather sad because that's my home station. But join me back in a bit, because I have just missed a 21, so I have to wait for another one, and I will go to Portsmouth and Southsea. Join me back in a bit after this. And I'm back, and I'm just making my way to the next station in operation along the line. So just at the back of the 21 this time, making my way towards the station of Portsmouth and Southsea, which comes in handy because then it opens up the Southsea branch, which I'm dying to discover. I knew of the 5 stations: Cosham, Hilsey, Fratton, Portsmouth and Southsea, and Portsmouth Harbour. I looked at those stations a fair few times over the years that I've been making videos, making content for YouTube, and it's just really interesting and very exciting at the same time that I take it down the old Southsea branch. I mentioned it a few times, but not once did I think of actually going down that route until yesterday. Very spontaneous when it comes to planning this sort of stuff, and sometimes it works, other times it doesn't. It's just just depends on the roll of the dice, as it says, as the saying goes. But just coming out of Hilsey, it's an interesting station, Hilsey, because it opened 4 years after Farlington Station closed. There has been talks about reopening Farlington Station by Portsmouth City Council, but unfortunately those talks were never materialised, and I think I can understand why. It's based on the fact that it would be too close to Hilsey, because when you come to think about it, you had Farlington on one side of the creek, because you had the Portsea, it's the creek that linked you between the mainland of England and the island of Portsea, which then that will contain the main area of Portsmouth itself. And it's just, I've always enjoyed coming to this place just to give lessons about the place that I was born in. It's just incredible what you get to learn inside your own birthplace. But join me back in a bit before I reminisce too much, and I'll see you at the railway station of Portsmouth and Southsea. Let's get things back on track, shall we? And I'm back, and you've just joined me outside Portsmouth and Southsea railway station, the main station that started the whole railway network in Portsmouth. Interestingly enough, when this station opened in 1847, it was given just the name of Portsmouth, and then Cosham opened a year later, establishing a mode of transport, a mode of rail transport between Fareham and Portsmouth. And then you had Fratton open up in 1885 to give a connection to those wishing to travel to Southsea. More details of that will follow later on in this video. It's also important to note at this stage that when Portsmouth Harbour opened in 1876, this station was renamed Portsmouth Town. So when it originally opened, it was just called Portsmouth. Then it became Portsmouth Town when Portsmouth Harbour opened. And then in 1925, shortly after the Southsea branch was closed off, 4 years afterwards to be precise, and we had all of the main, everyone wanted to go to Southsea, was redirected to this station. And so in 1925, this station was renamed Portsmouth and Southsea. Now, interestingly enough, the year after that happened, Portsmouth gained its city status, and that is just something that I hadn't really taken into account. So I'm very intrigued. So next year you can expect me to do something rather special for this city to celebrate the 100th anniversary of gaining city status. But join me in a bit, because I'm just going to nip off and top up on my food and drink, because I've only got the equivalent of 1 meal deal left, so I need to top up. Still got plenty of journey left ahead of me, and I need to make sure I'm well fed and watered. But join me back in a bit, because I will be on the 2 and I'll take you to Albert Road. That will be where we have the start of the information of the Southsea branch. So I'll be back in a bit after this. And I'm back, and you've just joined me on the back of a 2, just making my way into Albert Road, because it's at this point where we get to start discovering the 3 stations that made up the Southsea branch. But before I dive any deeper into the 3 separate stations, I just wanted to give you a bit of information about the whole branch itself. So the whole branch opened in 1885 with East Southsea, which, interestingly enough, Old Bridge Road, where we're going to be going soon, was where that branch then terminated. You had a couple of halt stations that had opened up, one on Albert Road where we're just about to go to, and the other one in Jesse Road, which we are going to go to later in this video. And they both opened in 1904. It's a shame it didn't last so long, because the whole branch then closed in 1914. And the longest station, the station that's been around the longest out of those 3, would have been the one that was located in the east of Southsea. It's always interesting when you get to discover this sort of history of rail transport. And I know that I haven't been on a single train as of yet. It also is difficult to get all trains, although it might have done well when I looked at all the stations that are still in operation today. But at least with that in mind, we can get to explore the different areas, and it's just great to explore the history behind each place as well. I'm absolutely enjoying this so far. So, as I say, the next former station, because that's where we're heading towards, then the next former station that we're looking at, because we've already done Farlington, is it was called Albert Road Bridge Halt. Now, I don't know exactly where the bridge was, but as soon as you see the bridge, you will be able to tell where the railway station was at the time, between 1904 and 1914. So join me back in a bit, and I will see you in Albert Road. Hello back, and welcome to Albert Road. Now, this is one of the places where you would find the Albert Road halt station. Now, I can't say for sure where exactly down this road the station was. All I can say is that it opened in 1904, and then it closed after just 10 years. So it didn't last very long in operation, which is a shame, but unfortunately something like that happens. It's just also amazes me at this point that there used to be a line, there used to be a branch even here in Southsea. I just find it really amazing about the history behind this place where I was born. But aside from that, it can only be assumed that it was closed, the whole line was closed due to low passenger numbers. But more details will follow as I, in a bit, take you down St Ronan's Road, because that leads you to the next station. It's got to be over that way, because it then went down. I'm assuming it went down St Ronan's Road and then across over to East Southsea. Down Old Bridge Road is where you'd find the old East Southsea station. But join me back in a bit as I take you down St Ronan's Road. Join me back in a bit after this. And I'm back, and I'm just going to take you down St Ronan's Road. Just while I just sort my camera out. Because the next former station down this line was called East Southsea, and it's just down Old Bridge Road. It's an interesting discovery I've found in this area so far, because the areas are well located. I mean, the roads are particularly close, particularly with these two. So it just comes to show how close the stations really are, because look at Portsmouth Harbour and Portsmouth and Southsea, particularly Fratton and Portsmouth and Southsea. They're about 3 minutes apart of each other, those two stations. And then Portsmouth and Southsea and Portsmouth Harbour is about 5 minutes even, takes about 5 minutes to get between the two stations. But then that's because you had to go particularly slow along that line, because you spent most of it on a bridge. Now, there used to be a footbridge between the stations of Portsmouth and Southsea and Portsmouth Harbour. That meant that you were able to cross over and not have to worry about the road traffic. I tell you what, the road traffic here in Portsmouth is absolutely, and it's an absolute nightmare. I mean, I've had it where cars have stopped over on the Pelican Crossing in rush hour, thus preventing the pedestrians to cross. Thus preventing the pedestrians from crossing and trying to keep the priority to drivers. That's not very fair. But I'm not here to rant. I'm just here to take you on an adventure around the old railway network of Portsmouth and include the stations that are still in operation today. So I'm not too far from Old Bridge Road, so I will see you there very shortly. And I'm back, and you've just joined us at Old Bridge Road, the very road that played host to the railway station that was called East Southsea. That railway station was opened in 1885, shortly around the same time as Fratton Station, and this served as the terminus of the Southsea branch. And it would interest you to know at this stage that all the time this was going on, Fratton had the and Southsea suffix attached to its name, so it then became Fratton and Southsea. Now, unfortunately, this Southsea branch didn't last that long. The halt stations of Albert Road and Jesse Road only lasted for 10 years before they then closed. And then with that in mind, so East Southsea, when it was here at the time, it lasted 29 years because the whole branch closed in 1914, and it was really rather sad. I'm just thinking to myself, I wonder what it would have been like if the branch was still going and if there was any opportunity to extend out, would it have done? I mean, Eastney had some promise along that line. There was a bit of a promise there. Would have been a bit of promise for Eastney, as I would have theorised at that stage. But you also have to take other considerations into account as well. But when the Southsea branch closed in 1914, Fratton still kept hold of its and Southsea suffix until 1921, when at that point all of the people wishing to travel to Southsea were then redirected back to the main station at Portsmouth, which was called Portsmouth Town at the time. And then 4 years later that was renamed to Portsmouth and Southsea. So the and Southsea suffix then went over to Portsmouth Town as it was at the time. And then in 1921 the Fratton, the station that had originally had the and Southsea suffix, was renamed back to just Fratton. But join me back in a bit as I get the next bus to Fratton, and this is going to be a rather interesting discovery, and I'll tell you more about that when I'm on the bus. Join me back in a bit after this. And I'm back, and that was perfect timing. I couldn't have timed it any better than that.
Next stop is Bristol Road.
So by the time I got to the bus stop, or one was just pulling up, and yeah, that was amazing. So we're just going towards the next railway station on the line, which would be Fratton. Okay, so we're getting there. We've only got 4 more left to go now. So Fratton's next, out of the ones that are operating today. And then we still got a halt station, a former station, and an operational station. This is going to be where I wrap things up in style as I take you around. I continually take you around the areas of Portsmouth. Now, I have to point out at this point that Paulsgrove is the last place that comes under Portsmouth City Council, because then as you go towards Porchester, that then becomes Fareham. That comes under Fareham, which is why then I didn't cover Porchester in this video, because we're just mainly looking around Portsmouth, and that one comes under Fareham. Now the 2 comes down here as well, but the 1 and the 2 both go in different directions. So the 1 goes to Southsea, whereas the 2 goes to the Hard. Also, interestingly enough, and this might make you laugh, particularly for those who like bingo, I was on the 21 going to, when I was making my way to the station of Portsmouth and Southsea, I was on the 21. Then I got a 2 to go to Albert Road, and now I'm on the 1. Very interesting how I planned my journey when it came to making this video. Join me back in a bit and I will take you around the area of Fratton railway station.
The next stop is Eastleigh Health Centre.
And then we'll go down to Jesse Road Halt, where we talk about that, and then you've got the following plans after that. Join me back in a bit after this. And we're back. And welcome to Fratton railway station. Now, we've just gone over the bridge, so I've just got off the 1. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to quickly take over, because this station opened in 1885, which then coincided with the opening of the Southsea branch, when the station of East Southsea opened, and this station itself is the home to all our Portsmouth matches, or our home matches. And it'll be my chance, just to quickly, when there's time, now I can cross, take us down the area of Fratton, and then I'll end up having to cross over again to go down Talbot Road, to go down to Jesse Road, Holt. But it's a rather interesting looking station as well, because you've got 3 platforms, and it was they're all throughs, because platform 1 is your station platform for going out of Portsmouth. Platform 2 takes you to Portsmouth and Southsea. Platform 3 to Portsmouth Harbour. Now, whether or not there used to be a separate platform for the Southsea branch, that remains to be known. I'm sure there was, unless it branched off from platform 3. But look at this. That is what Fratton Station looks like from my point of view, from when I'm stood over here. And these steps that you've got here, they used to be accessible to foot passengers, but I think that's getting restructured, or it's getting restructured, because this will then allow for a smoother transition between the railway station and the football ground, because the Portsmouth football ground's not too far from here, which it's nice to see it in action. It's just too bad we can't use it at the moment. But join me back in a bit as I take you over down to Jesse Road, Holt. Join me back in a bit after this. And I'm back, and yeah, it's really hard to imagine that this road used to have a railway station, even though it was only one of those minor halt stations. Jesse Road, Holt. It was one of those that opened in 1904 and closed again in 1914. It just didn't last very long as a station, but then again, I guess there weren't that many passengers. And also, while I'm thinking about it, because we had trains along this time as well, but then you also had transport by horse, because we're talking about the really the earliest part in the 20th century. But we did have rail transportation down this side of Portsmouth. It's just a shame that it closed long before I was even born. Now we're talking 75 years before I was born. So I just thought, while I'd give that quick bit of history about this side of the Southsea branch, the bit that made up the one, and as critical as it was when it was around, it proved to not be that successful, because not many people used it. That's what it mainly boils down to when a station or a network closes. It's due to the fact that there weren't that many passengers using it at the time. And there's another example of that coming up later on in this video. And I say later on, it'll be quite shortly. So join me back in a bit, because I'm just about to get the next bus, get the 25, to carry on up to the railway station of Portsmouth Harbour. Join me back in a bit after this. And I'm back, and I'm just sat at the back of the 25, going back into the last of the main stations on the line. So we've looked at Fratton just a month ago, and we've just completed what made up the Southsea branch. So now we're just left with a couple more to Portsmouth Harbour and Paulsgrove. I'm going to be making my way to the station of Portsmouth Harbour, where this bus terminates actually, so it's perfectly timed. And then I think what I need to do after that is just get a 2 and just do the whole hog to Paulsgrove. 2 terminates there, and it's because it will then allow me to charge my phone. These charger ports are not working, and there's none on the other backs, so yeah, that's not good. It's a shame. I mean, I'm lucky enough, I've still got 50% left on my phone, so not too bad, but I will definitely need to charge it when I'm getting on the next bus. But join me back in a bit, because I'm going to take a quick food break. Because yeah, I need to take a quick food break, and I'll see you at the station of Portsmouth Harbour. Join me back in a bit after this. And I'm back, and welcome to Portsmouth Harbour railway station. And this one opened in 1876, and it not only provided a connection directly back into the main area of Portsmouth, but it also gives you the ferries to Gosport and the Isle of Wight. Both have been covered in earlier videos, and this is one of my most favourite railway stations. I'm not trying to sound biased, but it's just incredible what you can, incredible where you can go. So you can go to London Waterloo via Basingstoke and Guildford, because you've got 2 ways. You've got the ferry to Gosport, and then you can even go to Cardiff and Southampton and Bristol, Bath, and you can even go to Brighton. I say you can even go to Brighton, but I think something's going on, because it's got a please inquire. Something's going on, but you can go towards that way usually. I'll have a look about that and see what they say. Well, I'm just going to carry on having a look around Portsmouth Harbour, and I will see you in a bit when I get on the 2 to go to Paulsgrove. Join me back in a bit after this. And I'm back, and you just joined me at the back of another 2 going to Paulsgrove. I'm rather committed now, because I thought that I managed to get a seat with charger ports, and I thought, you know what, this would be a good time for me to charge my phone. Tried it, and my charger doesn't work, and there are no USB-C to C ports on this bus. So what I'm going to have to do now is, once I've done Paulsgrove, is to get another 2 back to the Hard, in a hope that I'll be able to charge my phone, because my battery's getting a bit low at this point. We're down to about 40 40%. So I've got to be careful at this point what I do after this video. So I've still got a couple of sections left to go, and I think I'll have enough battery in this, but I don't really want to take any chances. Well, with that being said, I've got a nice long break now, so I'm going to grab a couple of, I've got some drinks in my bag, which I'll take care of, and then I've got some food as well. Join me back in a bit as I take you around what would have been the railway station of Portsmouth. Join me back in a bit after this. And I'm back, and this is, believe it or not, where Portsmouth station would have been. Now, this station had 2 platforms situated between Cosham and Portchester. We've got Portchester going that way, and then you've got Cosham going that way. And it was proven to be very popular during the time it was open. Unfortunately, it was closed in 1939, but there had been talks in 2007 to reinstate the station of Portsgrove by Portsmouth City Council, even if it was only on match days. But unfortunately, those have never materialised, and Portsgrove is still without a station nearly 86 years. 87 years. And it's sad. But what isn't sad is I can see a train coming towards Portchester, coming out of Portchester into Cosham, and I think that is actually an SWR. That is an SWR. And if it is an SWR, which it is, I can see it is, that is going to Portsmouth Harbour. And it's with that in mind that you've got other trains from here that goes between Portsmouth and Southsea to Southampton Central. Now, if I take you a bit further along, you'll find that there is a bike trail down this part, which allows you to... I see another train. Well, I see another train, I actually heard it. That's going towards Portchester. But there's a little trail down there. It's a little cycle path which takes you deep into the heart of Portsgrove. So I'm going to take it back up to Alloway Avenue at this point, because I'm going to wait for another 2, just so I can then hopefully be able to charge my phone, because my USB-A charger to C is not working, which is a shame, but my C to C is. So join me back in a bit, and I will wrap up this video on the bus. And I'm back, and good news is I'm finally charging my phone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay on this bus until Southsea, because that will give me enough time to charge my phone and sort out the rest of this video. And just to wrap up practically what we've done today. So we've looked at, would have been 10 different stations on and around the area of Portsmouth. So we looked at Cosham, Hilsea, Fratton, Portsmouth and Southsea and Portsmouth Harbour. They're the 5 stations that are in operation today. Then we looked at the 3 stations that made up the former Southsea branch, which was East Southsea, that was in Aldbridge Road, Jesse Road and Albert Road, the 2 halts that were in between. And then you also had Portsmouth and Farlington. So it's been a productive video, and I'm glad to have been able to take you on this journey with me. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.